Alright everyone, wish I was coming to you with better news, but as I'm sure everybody is aware, the news broke tonight that, first of all from Fabrizio Romano, that Sheikh Jassim had more talks with the Glazers, but then they weren't prepared to accept his bid and he had told them of his intent to walk away. I must say I wasn't overly worried at that point because something I'd thought for the last few days was what he needs to do at this point is either up his offer or walk away, because as soon as he walked away, my view was that the Glazers would panic and crawl after him saying, please, we'll accept the 5 billion, because for them it's a complete lottery win. It's the only one that makes any sense. So I have to say I wasn't too worried, but then of course what followed was, not just from one outlet but several outlets, that it's looking like it's going to be Sir Jim with 25%. The thing for me is that it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for the Glazers to take, let's cut through the crap and just talk money. It doesn't make any sense for the Glazers to take £1.5 billion from Sir Jim Ratcliffe and potentially stay for another 3, 5, 8, 10, whatever years. First of all, the 1.5 billion doesn't touch the sides in comparison to what's needed. The only way it would work with a minority investor was if they gave 3 billion, which is pretty much what the club's worth in total. But that's what's needed to be spent in the next 3, 4 years to make United even on par with other clubs. 1.5 billion doesn't do anything. They're not going to spend what's necessary on the stadium. That's because to them that's wasted money. So they'll do I suppose a papering over the cracks exercise with the stadium. We'll spend a lot of money in one transfer window in the next 2 or 3 years, and the rest, I don't know. They might pay off some of the debt. It just gives some money in the coffers. Who knows? I'm not too sure, but that money will be gone in no time, and it won't be spent on anything that's going to help the club moving forward long term. But for the Glazers, I don't think it's enough money for what they need. Then you've got in terms of the long-term plan for them maybe to kind of cash out at whatever point, it's all based on if, buts or maybes. It's all based on what might happen. And the things that might happen are, we could be part of a new expanded Champions League. We could be part of a new expanded World Club Cup. We could be able to negotiate our own TV rights. To do all of those things, you have to be successful on the pitch. And United need a lot of money spent in order to be successful on the pitch, and they're not going to do that. With £1.5 billion, they're not going to do that. They seem to forget this part of it. You have to do something to get success. You can't just sit there and keep milking something when there's nothing left. Put 1.5 billion in to top it up and keep doing the same thing you've always done and expect that in 5 years you're going to somehow have this miracle outcome. It's not going to happen. It's just nonsense. It's fantasy. You've got that option, or you've got £800 million each that you can take from somebody who's offering that to you that you don't deserve, that is a lottery win. You've not put a penny into the club. You've got debts everywhere. You've got debts with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All your malls that you've had in America have shut down because you haven't got any money. The family are absolutely screwed in terms of money. But basically what's going to happen is in 2 or 3 years, maybe not even that, we'll be back in exactly the same position we're in now. Guaranteed. That's all that £1.5 billion will do. And I'm not sure whether Sir Jim Ratcliffe is he's doing the same sort of thing the royal family does, where is it like that stem cell research or stem cell regeneration or something like that. How old is he? He's 70. He's going to put 25% in now with some long-term aim to own the club. He's 70 years old. The Glazers themselves aren't young people. So this grand master plan, what's he going to be, 78 when he finally acquires the full ownership of United? Great. There's a long-term vision for you. Doesn't make any sense. Still doesn't make any sense to me at all. So it doesn't make any sense for him, and it doesn't make any sense for them. I have to say that even if Sir Jim Ratcliffe was coming in with an offer to buy the whole club, I'd still prefer the other option. He hasn't got enough money. He didn't have enough money. He had to borrow money to buy 50% of the club, as we heard earlier on in this whole process. So he's now had to go to 25%. When is he suddenly going to come into the money that's required to buy the whole club? Who's he going to have to lend money off to be able to do that? It's just a different shade of shit, people. It's going to be exactly the same as it's been over the last few years. I think I might have said it in a previous video, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. It's 2016 United. That's what it'll end up being. That in 2016 we probably still had a decent pot of money, but we were in debt and things weren't going the way we wanted them to go. That's basically where we're back to now. But it won't take long for us to be back in 2023 United, probably by 2026. We'll be in exactly the same position that we're in now. Because he ain't got any money to do what's needed to be done. And I don't expect the Glazers to do what's best for Manchester United, but you've got an offer there that sorts out the stadium, that apparently, which makes it even more worse, this is what you could have won kind of territory. Apparently, Sheikh Jassim had pledged £1.5 billion to Manchester United, not the sellers, but £1.5 billion to Manchester United to do everything probably that needs to be done. And I think that's then probably he would do stuff with the stadium as well as that, because that was about local area investment. I hate to say it, pretty much like City have done. So if the two offers were of the equivalent of each other, where he's offering a full sale, I still wouldn't want Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's done nothing at Nice. So, I'm sorry, 25% of this clown is not what... It's a disaster. It's a complete disaster. It's Armageddon. Then, what we're left with, for me, anyway, I'll take ownership, but for me, and some other people that I know, is the loss, because I won't continue to watch something I love get raped and pillaged and die. And that's what's happening. And people might not realise that, but I know it for myself, and I don't care what other people think. That's what's happening. And I'm not watching it. I'm not continuing to watch something I have loved and been part of what I am and part of my identity be completely stripped to its knees and become an also-ran, and maybe even worse. I don't need the weatherman to tell me when it's raining. This is doomsday for Manchester United, and I will not watch it. Not because I won't support my club through thick and thin, but because I've supported the club through thick and thin, and I can't watch when something's happening that is so quite clearly wrong, but nothing's being done about it. And what goes with that is, I've got 3 boys. When I had my first child, and he was a boy, one of the first things I thought is me and him going to Old Trafford together, me and him going to the pub and watching United together. Now I've made the decision that I'm not going to watch. I'm going to step away from it. So it's my call. But I feel like I've been herded into a corner to make that decision. And so this whole process has robbed me not only of what I've loved since I was 7 years old, 37 years worth of time and love, but also the future, taking my lads to the games, bringing them up to be Reds and all that kind of stuff. United isn't United anymore, it's the Glazers. So that what's out there at Old Trafford is a shadow, is a carcass of what we would want and I will not encourage my children to go and cheer on that carcass because they've created it, the Glazers. If my lad came to me in a couple of years' time and said, Dad, please, 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 can we go to Old Trafford? I'd take him, because I want what's best for my children. If they want to do that, then fine. But I'm not going to encourage him to do that at all. And that is a loss for me and for my family. Which doesn't mean anything to anyone that's watching this, I'm sure. But these are the things that go with these big decisions that the big money men don't care about. Very sad, incredibly sad. On to Sheikh Jassim. We were told that he was going to, inverted commas, blow everybody out of the water. I understand you've got to be smart as a businessman, but if he's offering 5.2, for example, and the Glazers want 6, we hear that the consortium involved has got hundreds of billions of pounds. I'm not sure why they couldn't find another billion. That, for me, frustrates me, I have to say. So, you know, the Glazers are responsible for this situation, and the Qataris would say they've given a fair price. But I have to say, they haven't blown everybody out of the water, have they? As was said in the first instance, because I think if they had, they'd get the club. I don't want to be hard on our fans, because I'm sure we're suffering together at the moment. But something I've harked back to time and time and time again. Nothing's been done. Nothing's been big enough, strong enough, in terms of protests, in terms of disruption, in terms of militant behaviour in the face of what's going on. And I repeat something I said a couple of months ago. If this was a situation at Liverpool, the owners would have gone, and they would have found an eventuality of what they wanted. We as a fan base are full of top Reds who get behind the lads and go to the game and hark back to the 70s and how difficult it was then, as if it's some kind of badge of honour. The 70s is 50 years ago, depending on what part of the 70s you're talking about. We live in an era where we need to compete with the best. And if we don't compete with the best because we just organically aren't good enough anymore, that's cool. But there's a glaring reason, we all know what it is, and we have been, and I'll repeat the phrase, we've been raped and pillaged by the owners of the club. And just standing by and letting that happen, for me, you've aided and abetted it. I'm sorry you have. It's like going past the crime that you can see on the street, that you know you could do something about, but you just stand there and say it's none of my business. So for a lot of fans, you know what, you've reaped what you reap what you sow. And I feel very let down by the United fan base. I really do. Finally, to end on a good note, over till the fat lady sings. As a club, we have a reputation of scoring goals in the last minute, of injury time winners, of coming back from the death, literally, when it comes to Munich. Rising from nothing, from an air crash. So, don't rule us out. You never know. Things have been misreported all the way through this circus of the last year, where, remember that deadline when everyone said, yep, the 2 bids have gone in, and then in the early hours of the morning someone broke. No, they haven't gone in. They've asked for an extension. Just don't give up yet. I think potentially, because as I bring it back, right back, I think what I said at the start of this video, I think Sheikh Jassim was right to say, do you know what, there you go, I'm off, leave it. And there's a bit of me which thinks they might be scrambling now, and potentially something could still happen that we want. It isn't over until it's over. And if one thing we learn as Man United fans, maybe we get another Fergie time. Maybe something special could happen that we want to happen. From the jaws of defeat, we get victory. If not, it's the end. Glazers out.